Chapter 21 picks up on a theme that we've been going through for some chapters now with the passive voice. First we had first and second conjugation in the present system, the passives, present and perfect future tense. Then we got all of the perfect system for every verb, and now we're going to finish it off by talking about third and fourth conjugation in the present, the imperfect, and the future. That's what is meant by present system. The reason why this is split up is we have to kind of review the vowel changes and the weird things that happen in the third and fourth conjugation. Besides that, the rules are the same for forming passives that we saw before, but it's really just we need to review how do you form third and fourth conjugation verbs. So, to review, here are the passive voice endings. Remember that when you translate a passive, you need a form of to be added in the English. So if we said I love and you wanted to make that passive, it becomes I am loved, right? Or I loved, past tense, becomes I was loved. Okay, so the present tense I love, you're going to use a present tense form of to be, am. And if it's past tense I loved, you need a past tense here, an imperfect form of to be, was. Now, here are your endings, are, ris, tor, more, many, entor. Remember that all you're doing is you're replacing these with the active voice endings. So o, s, t, mus, tis, enti. Essentially, you're just switching those out. Swap those out for the passive ones, and that's all you really do. That's what we did a few chapters ago when we had first and second conjugation. Are, ris, tor, more, many, entor, swapped out for o, s, t, mus, tis, enti. Verbs are formed the same exact way. So, for review, again, how do we conjugate verbs in the active voice for third and fourth conjugation? Okay, these are infinitives that end either ere, short, or an ire. The only rule is that the short e in the third will change to an I or a U in the present, and that the fourth conjugation uses an EI instead of just an I or instead of an E in the imperfect and future. Besides that, there's really no difference between first and second conjugation. So if we look here, we have dico, dicere, and audio, audire. Our stems, infinitive minus the re. Let's fill those in. Okay. Now in the present tense, audio is going to do just what we would expect, except it's audiunt, unt, in the third person plural. Dico, because it's a short e, is going to switch to an I. Okay, so when we form it, it's going to switch that E over to I. So dico, is, it, imus, itis, and then U. This is the I or the U change in the present tense. Okay. For fourth, for audio, if we switch it out, that I stays. So it's audio, is, it, imus, itis, and then it's just I-U-N-T. That's forming it in the active voice. So if I wanted to say I say, dico, or I hear, audio. Okay, so that vowel change, that's the most important thing. If we look at the imperfect, same exact stem, and really all we're doing, if we're going with dico, is adding our endings. Bom, bos, bot, bomus, botus, bont. Keep the E, add the right endings. For fourth conjugation, that I, we would just expect I, bom, bos, bot, bomus, botus, bont. But fourth conjugation is a weird mix of kind of elements of the third, kind of its own elements, and so instead of it just being that I, we have to make it IE, audiebom, iebos, iebot, bomus, botus, bon. That's the only rule difference here in the imperfect. The imperfect is pretty regular, just outside of that IE instead of just an E. And looking at the future, this is where things get a little tricky. Because we have this short vowel, this that E, short E, we're not using the bo, bis, bit endings, and we don't use them for either one. Okay, so dike is fine, but really what happens is we switch from that I in the present tense, and we actually just keep the E, so it's ace, et, amus, atis, ent. And the fourth conjugation does that same exact thing. We keep the IE, and then we're just adding endings. So instead of bom, bos, bod, we're using ace, et, amus, atis, ent. This is the big difference between third and fourth conjugation and first and second conjugation. So that sort of ends the review. Now, if we're moving on to the new stuff, what do we do to make these verbs passive, right? Maybe we want to say, I hear, or I am heard. And we can't really say to say. I say something, or it is said, I guess. It's been said, right? So it's the same exact rules as active voice, meaning that you are forming all of the rules, the vowel changes, stem plus endings, all of that stuff still applies. And all you're really doing is replacing those active endings, OST, must, tis, ent, with the passive endings, are, ris, tor, more, many, entor. There's only one exception to this rule, and it's in the present tense. So here we have loaded in the present tense in the active of deco and audio, the charts we just did. And switching them out, if you look at all these charts, and all we're doing is we're switching out, now the one deco or audio, you just add an R, you don't switch out the O for an R. But it's or, aris, itor, imor, imini, entor, or audior, iris, itor, imor, imini, iuntor. The only difference is the second person singular in the third conjugation. Instead of it being D-I-C-I-R-I-S, it becomes E-R-I-S. Why? I don't really know. You'd have to ask the Romans, and they're all dead. So all we're doing, again, switching back to the active chart, OST, must, tis, ent, just switching those endings out for ar, ris, tor, more, many, entor. That's all you do. Going to the imperfect, the same rules apply. Just switch out the O or M, ST, must, tis, ent for the ar, ris, tor, more, many, entor. There's nothing irregular here. All you're doing, here we go, is switching out those endings. There's no exception to the rule, nothing. So again, ar, ris, tor, more, many, entor for these MST, must, tis, ent endings. This is the active chart. This is the passive chart. This is what you need to know. Really, it's just a review of how to form third and fourth conjugation verbs, how to conjugate them, and then just doing this one rule, switching out the active endings for the passive endings. Same thing in the future. Okay, we have MST, must, tis, ent again, in both of these. All you're doing is switching out them for the ar, ris, tor, more, many, entor. That's all. Again, active voice, MST, must, tis, ent. Passive, ar, ris, tor, more, many, entor. That is all that's changing in any of these charts. I would suggest having the passive charts written down. Okay, active ones, you should already know how to do that. Write them down if you need to. Write down the passive ones for sure. These ones being the passives. Last thing in this chapter is we have to talk about the third and the fourth conjugation passive infinitives. Okay, so remember that the infinitives are either going to end ARE, a long ERE, a short ERE, or an IRE. To make an infinitive passive, we've already seen this. All you do is you change the last E in that ARE, ERE, IRE to an I. So in this example here, to love is amare. And if we wanted to say to be loved, it's amari, A-M-R-I. That's the only thing that changes. Okay. Fourth conjugation also follows that rule. So if we wanted to say to hear, it's audire. And if we wanted to say to be heard, it's audiri. Right? So we're just switching that last E for an I. The one that's different is third and third IO. As I say, they've gone rogue, and they changed the whole ERE to an I. So to lead is ducere, and to be led is duki. Ha ha ha, funny. But ducere to duki, or capio, capere is to capture. To be captured is capi, C-A-P-I. So it's helpful to know this just in case you should be expecting an infinitive, but you're like, hey, maybe this looks like it's second declension and it has an I. It's just a nice, it's not a nice thing. It's something that you need to know, right? Be aware of it. Could happen. Doesn't happen a whole lot, but it's something that does appear and something that you should be aware of. Just when you see this I, hey, maybe it could be a passive infinitive. Okay. That's really all there is in this chapter. Really, it's a review of third and fourth conjugation in the present, and then just making those verb forms passive, which is the same aris, tor, mor, minientor, and this last little bit about infinitives. Nothing new, really, or significant or profound content-wise. It's just finally rounding out what we have in the passive voice. So study it if you need to, and make sure you're aware of it when you're translating sentences.